This is what Landscapes Talks is all about. It's not just talking here, it's also actually doing something. Well, not just the noise, but when you go out, eh? Now, our next speaker, Dr. Christopher Stewart, heads the Corporate Responsibility and Sustainability Function for Olam International, which is a global seed-to-shelf agricultural business with operations in over 70 countries. Now, Dr. Stewart will be presenting Reimagining Palm Oil, a living landscape approach in the heart of Africa. Please help me welcome him on stage.
Wonderful, thank you. Good evening, thank you very much. And I'm very pleased to be able to present a concrete example of how a global agribusiness has worked with partners and a government to reimagine the way that large-scale agriculture is done in one of the most forested countries in the world, which is Gabon in the heart of Africa. Just to preface this, this is a little bit unusual for Olam, my company. We are a global agribusiness, but the vast majority of our business is actually done sourcing materials, commodities such as cocoa and cashew and cotton from smallholders. And it's really only in a select number of countries that we are engaged in large-scale agriculture. But when we got onto that journey about 10 years ago, our CEO, Sunny Verghese, said that he didn't want to do this unless we did it in a completely different way, because he didn't want to bring the ecological damages that had happened in places like Indonesia to a new origin in Africa. So he tasked us in Olam to reimagine how we were going to do plantations, maintaining this the impact that a large-scale operation like ours could have, but to do something rather different. So this is the country of Gabon. This is the place where the government of Gabon asked Olam to come and engage in a joint venture to restart agriculture in a country which for 40 years or more had been completely dependent on fossil fuels. Gabon is an oil economy. Oil accounts for a vast majority of its income. Second to that is mining. A distant third is forestry, which is astonishing given how much forest there is. And almost off the bottom of the chart, agriculture is practiced as a subsistence agriculture level. And in fact, Gabon imports more than 60% of its food, all the way from neighboring countries such as Cameroon, but even Brazil and France. So this is the country where we were invited to join a joint venture and to restart agriculture, understanding that that oil is a finite resource and Gabon needed some alternatives to oil. And when we started, we started doing, with the government of Gabon, a very involved process of site selection to see where in this country, this extraordinary jewel of Africa, could we do plantation agriculture that was not going to have a major and significant negative impact. So I want you to just focus on this, this yellow star here and on these two white fingers coming up into the country of Gabon, which are areas of savanna coming up from Congo-Brazzaville. And our main plantation area is at the tip of one of these fingers in an area, a very dynamic area of forest and savanna, where the savanna landscape is maintained by burning by local people. So what does this look like on the ground? Well, you've got some photos showing the dynamic ecosystems here. You've got, on the top left, you've got the savanna. And this is a savanna that's burned at least once, if not twice a year. And people will burn an entire plain for a bucket full of mushrooms. You know, it's a very sparsely populated country. People rely on subsistence agriculture and hunting, and they will just burn because, you know, it's that's how you find mushrooms. But what it means is that it pushes back the forest and it sometimes even burns into the forest. Now, if you don't burn for long enough, then you get what you get here on the right-hand side, which is a pioneer forest. So this is young trees coming up, taking over, and if they're left for long enough, they will turn into the Gabonese forest, this tall, mature, beautiful forest that you have here at the bottom right. And that's when the trees get big enough, then they become economically interesting to harvest, and foresters move in. There's a lot of legal and illegal forest management or timber harvesting in this landscape, and you'll get what you have here on the bottom left, which is a logged and highly degraded forest. So this is the general landscape that we were designated, and the government allocated some concessions to us to go and then do environmental impact assessments on the ground. And this is, so what you have on this map is the outline of one of those concessions, Muila Lot 1, with our detailed LiDAR map showing the carbon value across that concession. So in dark blue, so outside of the concession, you've got a generic map of savanna in yellow and forest in green. And within the boundaries of the concession, you can see in dark blue, you have the savanna, and as it goes redder and more orange, that's the taller forest, with the photos showing what's that. So we wanted to get all of this RSPO certified from the start. That meant having a social contract with all of the villages. We had to get their free, prior and informed consent for anything on their traditional lands, and part of that was a written social contract about the jobs that we would offer and the infrastructure that we would build in their villages. The second part of that was the high conservation value assessment and a carbon assessment. And this was really designed from the start to be an ecological network within the concession boundaries. So these big blocks of forest are the highest value forests in that landscape. And they're all connected together by a network of corridors allowing the movement of animals such as elephants, chimpanzees, buffaloes, and many of the other animals that are allowed to survive there because of the reduced hunting impact that we've been able to negotiate with the local people. Now, just to come back to the bigger picture here, I think the achievement is not just this sort of ecological network, but actually embedding an expectation of sustainable plantation management with our joint venture partner, the government of Gabon. So we managed to achieve a net positive carbon impact for the whole of plantation basis, and that was demonstrated by independent scientists through the HCS Plus science study. We should be storing 4 million tons of CO2 by restoring some forests that had been logged many times in the past. But now also the national expectation and embedded within policy is that high conservation value assessments and FPIC are part of environmental impact assessments. And that's also now being embedded within a national land use plan. And we've fed all of the science that came from all of these LiDAR and on-the-ground plots into the national policy domain. And now that is subject to a broad stakeholder platform involving all of the national and international NGOs in Gabon and the government of Gabon. And so this is what now the Gabonese government is consulting on as the areas where they would like agriculture to be experimented. In dark green, you have the low carbon areas. In grey, those are no-go areas for any kind of agriculture. And so the work that we've done is actually contributing to a land use plan which should protect the vast majority of Gabon's beautiful and wonderful forests. And we hope that that is going to be an example that could be looked at by other countries who will see that as something that they would like to copy rather than import a disastrous model of land degradation. Thank you very much.